of 26 at the X, and Towson able to use that in the second half to really dominate possession.
You're absolutely right. Woodall was such a force tonight and really did not have any drop-off from the first face-off to the last. He is a beast at the X there and allows this Towson team to grab momentum and to keep momentum at any part of the game. And I think as a contender, that's such a valuable weapon to have. It allows your offense to get in a flow and ultimately come away, settle in, and come away with more wins.
In 62 meetings between the Tigers and Greyhounds, twice Loyola entered as the #1 team in the country, and twice Towson was able to knock them off. Just kind of what rivalries are all about. So once again, your final score from Johnny Unitas Stadium: Towson 12, Loyola 10. Thank you for watching the CAA Game of the Week on Lac Sports Network. For Davey Emla, our producer Dylan Hand, and our entire crew, I'm Travis Eldridge. Our next CAA Game of the Week comes your way Saturday, a doubleheader with Fairfield hosting Rutgers and Hofstra welcoming Georgetown. We'll see you then, but right now we send you back into the LSN Broadcast Center.
Tonight on Lacrosse Now, the PLL has teams, logos, and now coaches. We'll tell you what coaches are leading which team.
Nah, I'm just his father, but you're his coach. You're like a father to him.
Plus, it's time for NLL Hot Takes. Will Calgary be atop the West Division at the end of the weekend? Producer Pete thinks so.
I'm not so sure about that.
And we get you ready for another Saturday in college lacrosse. We'll talk with Hofstra coach Seth Tierney and Georgetown's Kevin Ward ahead of our CAA Game of the Week. It's here on Lacrosse Now, which starts right now.
Here we go. It's Thursday.
It
Thursday,
is.
Friday Eve. Yes, it's time for another edition of Lacrosse Now. I'm Megan Triplett. He's Travis Eldridge. And like always, it's time to talk everything lacrosse.
Yeah, a bunch of different news coming out today. We start with some of the latest, and we'll work our way down.
Yeah, first up, we finally have the first Horton watch list. The top 50 for the men and women just came out almost an hour ago, not even a few hours ago. So let's take a look at some notable women that made the cut. Look at Boston College. Got 3 names on the list. Emma Puzo, Dempsey Arsenal, and Kinsey Kent, which honestly, no surprise there. And Maryland has 2 people on the list, Erica Evans and Caroline Steele. And then you got Olivia Conti for Towson. All right, for the men's side of things, Grant Ament from Penn State from that attack position. He's had such a great season so far. JT Giles Harris from Duke, Dehoka Nanticoke from Albany, Asher Knowlton from High Point, and another player we've been talking a lot about, and no surprise here, Pat Spencer, the highlight reel coming out of Loyola, has made the cut, and Jeff Teat from Cornell. Now, for more on this, let's send it over to Travis.
So we have analyst Chris Marshall back in studio. Welcome back, Chris, in here from Chicago. This is good to have you back. So we got to get your Tewaaraton power rankings, if you will. Who you got at the top?
Well, I think for me now it's still Pat Spencer. He's been unbelievable. He
still put up 5 points.
That's what I'm saying.
And it was like quiet.
And that's the thing that's scary about him. We did a whole segment on how good the defense was against Pat Spencer, and like how proud we were of Towson to be able to keep him under wraps.
He had 4 assists.
He had 4 assists. He had 5 points. And that's just sort of what you come to expect. I mean, he's at the top of nearly every statistical category in Patriot League history, and he's still got a whole season ahead of him.
Yep.
Which is wild. So I think when you look at, I know it's not a lifetime achievement award, but I think it matters that he's done it before against the the highest level of competition. So Pat Spencer, to me, at this point, it's his to lose.
By the way, he is a two-time Tewaaraton finals entering this year.
Should be 3.
He should be 3. He's likely going to be 3 at this time at the end of the year. If he doesn't win it, he will be the first 3-time finalist to have ever not walked away with at least one award. So, something to think about.
Indeed.
As we head down that road. Who else you got in this list?
There's a couple other guys that I think could steal it. I mean, there are plenty good players. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear Grant Ament is one of those guys.
Boy.
He is playing out of his mind right now. He's averaging 7+ points per. He's got 31 in 4 games, 24 assists. Mac O'Keefe, largely the beneficiary. He's a so-called killer there on the crease in terms of his goal scoring. But he's just the stir of that whole pot of gumbo for this Penn State squad.
Well, and you look across the country and, I mean, try to find a more dynamic Dodger from behind the cage. There are not many people that can make Chris Fake, the best defender in the country, look like that.
And that's pretty incredible. I mean, that's probably never happened to Chris Fake.
No, never, at any level.
And I remember, a couple years back, you saw Tucker Durkin get rolled up a little bit in the back of the goal. But that stuff just doesn't happen to defenders like that. And what he was able to do against not only one of the top defenders in the country, but one of the best defenses we've seen over the last, since Andy Shea's been there. They've quietly been one of the top 10 defenses without question. I mean, that's really impressive. There's just nothing you can do to stop him, and I think that puts him in the same category.
So Penn State and Loyola have been 2 of the hot teams in the country so far to start the year. Not surprising to see them. How about Jeff Teat at Cornell? Is he on here?
He's absolutely on here. And I think when you look at what he's done, he's got 10 and 4 after 2 games, 7 points per, and that's not that far off from what he's done in terms of his average. And he's another one of those guys that just makes everyone else around him better. I think he's been able to adjust as he's gotten older to getting shut off and finding ways to impact the game when they're trying to take him away, which I think the other 2 players have done a better job of over the course of their careers. But I think he's really taken another step forward this season. And when you look at the records that he's eyeing, the Rob Pinnells of the world, records that he's already broken, I think he's another one of those players, especially since Cornell is so good this season. I think he's going to have a lot of eyeballs on him. And if he does what he did, the last couple of seasons, then he's going to be just fine. He's going to be right in the thick of things.
The great news is next weekend, Spencer Fitz earlier this week, they play in the Crown Lacrosse Classic down in Charlotte. So that is the perfect test for Teat against the same defense that was able to neutralize Spencer enough to be able to get a win. It will be fun to watch. When you look at the defending champs, they lost the Tewaaraton winner in Ben Reeves. But then they just pulled in a transfer who may be just as game-changing in a different position.
Well, and I think when you look at the path that Trevor Baptiste blazed, being a finalist for the Tewaaraton Trophy, like he was, people have really, I think, started to respect that position a lot more. And these guys are really, really good.
And they changed the game.
They changed the game. And I think you saw that, in the Penn State game against Yale. And Jerry Arceri is an All-American. He's not some guy they took off the street. He's an All-American face-off guy, and he got absolutely torched by T.D. Earlin. He's a game-changing guy. He had a game where he had 22 ground balls. He's the first player in the history of the game to have 2 games where he had 22 ground balls. I mean, that's outrageous. He's at a 77 or so percent, just shy of 77% on the season, which seems low for him with how dominant he's
up there
been
near
at times.
80 on the season last year.
And that's, I think, when you look at guys who are really great and then not as good, but then you look at the historical significance of the benchmark that he's at, and he's
really,
like, wow,
really
that's the second best season in the history of the game. So I think when you look at Pat Spencer's, and I think Miles Jones suffered a little bit because of this.
He set such sky-high expectations.
It's tough to follow that up, but he is as good as anybody else in the country. And I think if you look at pure dominance at a specific position, which I think needs to be a metric for this award, then he's a guy that has to be on the list.
Hey, with the shot clock era, people were speculating whether the face-off position would be just as important. Alex Woodall and T.D. Earlin have shown us so far in the early part of 2019, it's just as important with the shot clock.
Well, and Woodall can play himself into this conversation, too.
Also, Trey, he had a really good game against Loyola again after starring against Hopkins. So you only gave us, was that 4?
4.
Hey, you're not going to give us a 5?
I'll give you a couple dark horses.
All right,
a couple dark horses. I like Chris Gray and what he's been able to do. He's flying under the radar because they haven't
not for long.
They haven't had the toughest radar, or they haven't had the toughest schedule thus far. But he's leading the team. He's leading the country in points right now. And granted, he has one more game than Ament, who is right on his heels. But he's a guy who's just fantastic. And I think if you look at the schedule that Boston University has, he's got an opportunity to really rack up some points. So if he's able to get to 100 and they're able to be in postseason contention, he's a guy that I think should at least be talked about. And of course, Josh Stout, who's near the top of the country in goals scored, just doing it the same way he was in the MCLA. So he's having a really fantastic start to his career, and he's going to have some really tough games coming up and an opportunity to show what he can do against some of the best Division I players in the country.
We missed all the MCLA talk with you not here in studio. Chris's power rankings early on for the Tewaaraton race.
All right, thanks, guys. It's great to see Chris back in the studio with us today. All right, let's stay in the college game and talk about a game that went down today on the women's side. Colgate hosting Siena. This game was supposed to take place on Wednesday. Due to the weather, it was on Thursday. So that was Julia Pelcher drawing the defenders towards her, leaving Carrie Goretti open. Siena goes up 2-0. Later, same score. Peyton Gabriel with the great pass to Noelle Patterson, who was left open in front of the net. Colgate gets on the board. 3-1 Siena's up. Haley K-Mac scores a fierce bounce shot off of a free position. So Siena extends that lead 4-1. Colgate down 3 here. Danielle Van Kalkar making some great moves to confuse her defender and cutting Siena's lead only down to 2. Second half we go. Still 5-3. Noelle Patterson got the rebound. Takes it in herself, starting the half off great for Colgate. So Colgate cuts that 1-1. 6-4, Colgate down 2. Siena tried to pull away, but Colgate's Danielle Van Kalkar keeps her team in the game, making some great moves on the crease. Colgate cuts it to 1 again. Annie Brennan initiates a scoring run for Siena, putting in a fiery shot from further out, signaling the beginning of the end for Colgate, because that one will take the lead to 2. And then Saints up 3 here. Carrie Goretti beats her defender and finds the corner of the net, scoring Siena's final goal of the game. And they would go on to win this one 9-6. First win on the season for Siena. So it was a very, very big night. Leading the way for Siena was Goretti, who had 3 goals, 1 assist. Pelcher with 1 goal, 1 assist. McNeely with 1 goal. You know what? Van Kalkar for Colgate had 3 goals on the day, but it wasn't enough as Siena comes out the winner.
All right, another day, another announcement in the Premier Lacrosse League. Little by little, we are learning more and more about this new league, the PLL, getting ready to start play on June 1st.
Right. I think, at one point we knew the coaches. Then this week we found out the logos and the team names. And now, today, we figure out who will be coaching what team and the coaching staff on each team. So let's just run them through. How about that?
Let's start with the Archers?
Let's go.
Start with the Archers.
Yeah, for the Archers, Chris Bates will be the head coach. As for the rest of the coaching staff, Tony Resch and Brian Cavanaugh will serve as assistant coaches. Resch is an associate head coach at LaSalle College High School, and Cavanaugh is an assistant coach for the University of Vermont.
How about Team Atlas Lacrosse Club? John Paul going to be the head coach for the Atlas Lacrosse Club. Jason Lamb, Chris Cullen named his assistant coaches. Lamb, the director of athletics and head coach at Southern Virginia University. Cullen in his 5th season as the head coach for Detroit Mercy.
And you know what, Travis? I'm really excited about this thing, chaos. Everyone loves that name. We say that word.
Scorpion, though, is
yeah,
part of
but
it.
The word chaos works,
chaos
right?
is cool.
Okay.
I do like it.
All right. So for Team Chaos, Andy Towers will be the head coach, and for his assistants, he will have Ryan Curtis and Matt Panetta. Curtis is the head coach at Westminster School, and Panetta, who was an all-pro indoor and outdoor player, has spent the last 2 decades coaching at a professional and collegiate level.
How about Chrome Lacrosse Club? You know who's leading them? Dom Starsia. I can't wait to see him in baby blue and pink. It just seems right for Coach Dom.
That's
He's
true.
going to be the head coach for Chrome LC, and he's named Bob Deegan, and John Walker as his assistant coaches. Walker, a first-team All-American at Army, and has coached collegiately at Princeton and UVA. Deegan spent the last 35 years coaching at storied West Jenny High School.
All right, moving on to the Redwoods. Redwoods now.
My favorite team name, by the way.
It's kind of hard for me to say Redwoods. I have to say it really, really fast for me to catch on. The logo is pretty cool. All right, so for head coach, that's Nat St. Laurent will be the head coach with Dom Marzano and Todd McFarland as assistant coaches. Marzano is in his second season as the head coach of Capital University, and McFarland is an assistant coach for the University of Pennsylvania.
And last but not least, the Whip Snakes. The last coach we haven't said, Jim Stagnita, head coach of the Whip Snakes. The Whip Snakes.
These are hard.
Stagnita.
It's kind of hard to say.
Stagnita and Whip Snakes in the same line is very difficult. He's going to serve as the head coach for this team. He's got Mike Murphy and Brian Grady as assistant coaches named today. Murphy, the current head coach for the Hill School, former Colgate head man. Meanwhile, Grady, an assistant coach for Chestnut Hill College there in Philadelphia. All right, coming up on Lacrosse now. Georgetown men's head man Kevin Warren joins the show. He'll talk about his team gearing up for this weekend's CAA Game of the Week, a showdown on Long Island with Hofstra.
And we recap last night's upset between Towson and Loyola. And Chris Marshall will break down how the Tigers walked away the victor.
That guy, Alex Wood, ought a big thing to do with it. But first, since we're talking to Georgetown's head coach, we're also going to catch up with Hofstra's head man, Seth Tierney, about the big game coming up on Saturday. The Pride getting ready to host the Hoyt.
Still 26 seconds on the shot clock. Good play by Bowering. Reed Bowering going airborne for his second goal of the day.
Wow, the crease dive is back. That is textbook. We've seen a little ambiguity with the crease dive this year. Now that it's back, talk about landing in the goal mouth, launching towards the goalie. Nobody's really sure how to call this. This is clearly a clean crease dive.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle on the pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
Lacrosse Now is brought to you in part by New Balance Lacrosse. Built for lacrosse.
Welcome back here to Lacrosse Now. Hofstra shocked some people in their opener this year. The Pride knocked off a then-ranked Lehigh squad on the road 4-3, offense optional that afternoon in PA. Hofstra scored just one goal in the first 3 quarters of the season. They then scored 3 in the fourth to come back and score a big win. The one-goal games, they've been a trend in this early part of the season for the Pride. Other than the win over first-year program Utah at home, the Pride have played 3 one-goal games in 4 contests. That included a heartbreaking loss to Villanova in OT, and then that loss on Tuesday in the battle for Long Island against Stony Brook. Overall, though, there are a lot of new pieces still working in for the Pride. One guy you know what you're going to get from, the coach's son, Ryan Tierney. He's now a junior and has been sharp to start the year. He leads the team with 11 goals and 13 points in this 2-2 start. We've got Coach Seth Tierney joining us now. Coach, obviously a heartbreaker and a rivalry game for you guys on Tuesday. What do you take away as you have the quick turnaround here for Saturday?
Yeah, certainly Tuesday night was a tough one, coming off Villanova, which was, we had an opportunity to beat Villanova and came away 1 goal short. So, again, learning lessons with a young team, kind of got nicked up. I know a lot of teams, got these injury bugs, and we've got it rolling a little bit. So we're just excited to get back out there. Every time we get out there with this team, it's another experience. And again, 2 1-goal losses. We're close, but everybody's got to make one more play for us.
You mentioned a young team. You got some guys that are inexperienced in the spots that they're playing, still adjusting here in the early season. What are the other overall themes as you look at this team entering Game 5?
Yeah, no, we're moving in a good direction. Again, I don't know if we could have predicted what our record would be after 4 games with, the amount of turnover that we had. We had spoken, 18 guys go and 14 new guys in, and it's just been it's been refreshing, but just starting from square one again, and got a nice win over Lehigh early, and then beat Utah again. Could be a couple goals away from being 4-0, and maybe a goal away from being 1-4. And I think we're probably, I would love to have another 1 or 2 wins, but this is where we're at, and we got to learn from where we're at. And we got a very talented Georgetown team coming in. I know, their head coach is an alum here, and I'm really close with Coach Warren. So it'll be a battle here in Schuett Stadium.
Yeah, I know with Georgetown, they were trying to get up to you last year. They just couldn't quite get there. They're stuck in the bus for a little while. How good is it to now finally get them to come up here? Hopefully everything works out with the travel, and you guys get to play this game here on Saturday.
Yeah. Last year, listen, I'm pretty close with Coach Warren, and we were on the phone maybe 15, 20 times, and maybe 7 or 8 was. The only thing that he said was still in the same spot. Just a really wild trip, and he did a great job of keeping everybody together and getting everybody home safe. It just didn't work. Mother Nature is undefeated. So, we'll be happy when he gets up here and get a chance to play. And again, they've got a bunch of talented players that we're learning about now.
Let's talk about your team for a second. In goal, you have Bobby Casey, who not only wins that job, but he has the honor of wearing Nick Calalore's number 27. What has stuck out about him to you so far in this early part of the season?
Yeah, Bobby's done a great job in the goal. He's got double-digit saves, I think maybe in 3 out of the 4 games, and he's done a really good job for us. He's a leader. He basically earned the 27 by being Jack Kincannon's backup and showing the rest of the team what it's like to be a teammate. Regardless of playing time on game day, what it's like to be a teammate and unconditionally just love where you're at. And that's why he's got 27 on his chest. Again, he's the defense plays very well in front of him because there's a certain love there. And, I'm proud of him because he stuck it out 2 years, learned from Jack. Jack did a great job with him, and now right now it's Bobby's turn, and we got 3 talented goalies behind him. So it wasn't an easy road to get to the starting spot.
When you look offensively, your son Ryan has started this season kind of where he left off. He's been really good for you guys early on. Is there something else you see from him now as an upperclassman? He took over a leadership role a little bit as a sophomore in terms of operating in that offense, but now there's no question he's the guy.
Yeah, Ryan's, his game is maturing just through normal channels of becoming a sophomore and a junior. You start to see the game differently, and he's done a really good job of handling a lot of attention, certainly from the other team's defense. There's no hiding him. You know, in the first couple games when he was a freshman, we could hide him because Josh Byrne was out there. And then, you know, he started to make a little name for himself. And then certainly last year and, you know, and this year he's done a good job. He's got a couple goals for us, a couple of assists. He's played well. He's letting the game come to him. He's done a great job as being a leader out on the field and more importantly in the locker room. You know, when I go downstairs to the locker room, when I see him with other guys and just helping them, you know, that's just a good sign. But, you know, Mark Ellis has done a good job as a captain and a lot of people, you know, that whole class has done a really good job.
Finally, before we let you go, one of the other teams in this league knocked off #1 last night in Towson. I know that you don't want to see that team in a couple of weeks, but what does it mean for the league to have a marquee win like that on the slate?
It was awesome. It was awesome. You know, I'm so happy for Sean Nadalin. You know, he's a guy that played for me when I, you know, as a coach at Hopkins for 1 year. He was a senior. You knew he was going to be one heck of a lacrosse coach when his time came. And you know, I got a chance to watch some of that game last night, and he did a great job. And you know, just his guys played really well. And it was you know, it was just one of those games where, you know, the things came together. But he's been playing well, and you know, got a win over Hopkins early, and then a couple other wins, and you know, he's got some things rolling there. Certainly with Alex at the faceoff X, and this new guy in the goal is playing well, and certainly Sunday and Maloof and a couple of guys throwing the ball in the goal. Kobe Smith defensively, they got some things going on.
You got a little while before you have to worry about them. We're looking forward to seeing you play Georgetown this weekend. Coach, appreciate the time.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And you can see the Pride and the Hoyas on Saturday right here on LSN. Game time set for 3 p.m. Eastern, part of a loaded Saturday slate on Lac Sports Network and the LSN app. You're going to want to stay locked in. We got a trio of Division I games on Saturday afternoon. As for now, still ahead, we talked to the head coach that Tierney's going to go up against on Saturday. Hoyas coach Kevin Warren joins us. We'll ask him what he's looking forward to as he gets ready to coach against his alma mater. But first, we bring back Chris Marshall, our analyst, break down the play of how Kobe Smith was able to defend against Loyola and that spectacular Pat Spencer last night. What's up, lacrosse fans? Have you heard? Lac Sports Network is now free. You can enjoy over 150 live games, including all of the MLL regular season and over 2,000 hours of original content. Check us out at lacsportsnetwork.com or download the LSN app. Available on iOS, Android, Roku, Chromecast, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Xbox. It's all free, so what are you waiting for? Chris, you got some dance moves for us?
Yeah. No, I don't think I can do that. Do the worm anymore, but
Towson.
Maybe after the show.
Man, well, you beat the #1 team in the country. Plenty of reasons to dance and celebrate. And Chris is going to tell us how one of the reasons Towson was able to knock off Loyola here on LSN last night.
Well, certainly. I mean, it's hard not to dance with the Montel Jordan.
I mean, come on. This is how we do it.
This is how they did it.
This is how Kobe Smith did it, huh?
And there's a couple of things that I really like about his game. One, he's not afraid of Pat Spencer. And obviously, you know, you talk to him, and that's just great stand-up defense. You force him into a little bit of a tough shot, and then pull that right back up. And then I think when we'll watch this one again here. So you see him, he just stands him up, and then he gets the lift right there at the end. And I think again, when you watch the way that he comes across, he gets that drop step, and that's something that I think is really important in the way that he plays defense. But I think when you watch him cut back here, and specifically what you want to look for is as Pat Spencer tries to bring the shot across, he's able to get up into his hands and force him into a more difficult shot, and that creates an easier save. And then coming up on this next one, you watch him as he comes back. I think when you watch defenders, Pat Spencer's about as shifty as they come. He comes here and then cuts back. And I think what you need to look at is the footwork. Kobe Smith, moving this direction at speed, is able to drop step and recover and get back. And you watch that back foot as he's able to step backwards instead of crossing his feet. As soon as the defender crosses his feet, and you're a guy like Pat Spencer,
it's over.
It's over because he sees it and then he cuts you right back. There's the drop step and he's right back on top of it. The defense is all packed in there. It's really impressive stuff.
Well, and Kobe Smith said after the game to the Baltimore Sun lacrosse insider Ed Lee, look, I played against Pat Spencer in high school. To me, he was another guy that I had the assignment against, and I know he's a special player, but that was the assignment. We studied film, and we got the job done. And it's that kind of attitude you have to have against a player that's as elite as Spencer.
Well, it certainly is. And a lot of times, too, when you get a player like Spencer, and you look at these other defenders, you know, they're all looking up this way at Pat Spencer. But unlike some other instances where you have the defenders who are looking at Pat Spencer but losing track of their guy, they were able to maintain their positioning, stay tight, and not let the other players beat them, even though they were paying so much attention and getting those early slides going. Obviously, they made some pretty good saves as well, but yeah, it was a great team defensive effort as you saw that last pass get picked off.
Well, and I think one of my favorite plays of the entire night was when Pat Spencer went to dodge. He turns his head, and all of a sudden, there were 5 yellow jerseys, those yellow portholes staring him in his face. It shows you all the attention was on him. They made Kevin Lindley, they dared Kevin Lindley to beat him. Lindley almost did without the great save by Cantor and some others. Could have been a different game there down the stretch. But overall, they said, you know what, we're not going to let Pat Spencer beat us scoring goals. They made him a distributor, and Loyola wasn't able to quite score enough against this Towson defense. Yeah, they played great. I mean, that's the trademark of this Natalan defense. They do the fundamentals really well. They keep their sticks in the passing lanes, so when they make those slides, they recover quickly, and they're not hurt in the same way that some of the other teams are. By the way, if you want to go back and rewatch anything you may have missed, you can right now here on LSN. On demand, you can rewatch number 1 Loyola against number 7 Towson. You can see more of Kobe Smith's great defensive effort. You can go back and rewatch that Tyler Canto save over and over and over again because it's worth watching over and over again. Relive it if you're a Towson fan. You can see how the Tigers knocked off number 1 on demand on LaxSportsNetwork.com and the LSN app.
All right, thanks, guys. Now, still ahead. You know we can't get to the weekend without some hot takes from the NLL matchup that's going down this weekend. Producer Pete is at it once again.
But first, we talk with Hoya's head coach, Kevin Warren, see how he's getting his team ready to take on his alma mater in Hofstra on the island on Saturday.
Announcer Jinx as DeHoga draws the quick double team. No look pass. Patterson's got 4. DeHoga with his first assist of the day.
That's why we talk about him when he's not in the game, because when he isn't, he can do something special like that. He draws the double team and tosses a no-look pass inside to Jacob Patterson.
Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release it, and we're not trying to race up the floor as we shuffle. It's more about control than it is about speed.
You're watching Lag Sports Network.
Coming off a bounce-back win at Mount St. Mary's earlier this week, 19th-ranked Georgetown hits the road again this weekend to play at Hofstra, part of our CAA Game of the Week package here on LSN. And it's a trip down memory lane for Hoyas coach Kevin Warren, a Hofstra alum. This is his chance to bring his team back to where he played. They tried to make this trip last year, but the snowstorm got the team stuck around Philadelphia on the way from D.C. to Long Island. Hoyas spent around 24 hours in a bus before deciding to turn around, and that game was canceled. So we're hoping they get up there this year. Speaking of better, the Hoyas couldn't have asked for much more from Jack Caraway on Tuesday. The junior scored 4 goals, added 2 assists, 6 points in the win over Mount St. Mary's. He's so far got 19 points on the season. But the key to the offense for Georgetown is Daniel Buccaro. Coming off an ACL injury, Buccaro is back this year and has started hot. He's got 20 points in this 3-1 start, and he has things clicking for the Hoyas. For more, let's toss things over to Megan.
And now we have Georgetown head coach Kevin Warren joining the show. Coach, you are in the midst of your season. What have you seen and learned about your team so far?
We keep games interesting. I'll tell you that much. You know, we're, like most teams in the country, we're a work in progress right now. As long as we get better, you know, each day, each practice, hopefully we'll be better in 3 weeks from today. You know, every day our guys are working hard to do all the right things. You know, still trying to figure some things out, who can do what works best for us, and I guess that's part of playing a pretty good schedule early on and figuring things out before conference play rolls around.
And you talk about getting better. So 2 weeks ago, you guys lost to Towson, but then you just bounced back last weekend against Mount St. Mary's. So what adjustments did you have to make from Towson to Mount St. Mary's?
We had to get back to who we are. I know that's very cliche, but we had to do a little things, you know, and worry about us and make sure we understand what the plan is, what we need to do, what we can and can't do. I think across the country right now, obviously the schedules and who's playing who. I mean, anybody can beat anybody in any given day. So we got to make sure the margin for error is really, really small. So we need to make sure we do all the right things to put ourselves in a really good position to have success on game day.
And, you know, last week we saw your goalie, Chris Brando. He came off the bench and earned his first career victory between the pipes with a 4-save performance. How great was it to see him have such a great performance like that?
It was good because he's done a good job all preseason. He was out a lot of the fall, so we didn't get a chance to be with him that much on the field in the cage. But came in and had a, you know, Owen, you know, just wasn't seeing the ball. We still have a lot of confidence in Owen. We have a lot of confidence in Chris. So it just puts us in a better position. No, we have 2 guys, and Jack Stevenson, who's our other goalie out of the 3. We have confidence in all 3 of those guys that they can get the job done in the cage.
So next up, you have Hofstra. That game's right here on LSN. What is going to be the biggest challenge for you guys as you get ready to take on the Pride?
That's a good question. It's my alma mater, so I got to be real careful how I answer this. But they're a good team, and if you look at their scores, I mean, they could easily be, you know, 4-0 right now. I mean, 2 1-goal losses. You know, the tough one to Villanova, and then this past Tuesday against Stony Brook. They're fighters. You know, they've been down in a bunch of their games. They're typical Turnpike guys, and only people who have been to the Turnpike know what that means. So we're going to be tested. I know they're going to play hard. It's a pretty prideful group that'll be ready to go and try and get a win.
And you mentioned it. It's your alma mater. What is it like to see your alma mater on the other side of the field?
It's pretty cool. Hopefully, unlike last year when we couldn't get there because of a snow, we wound up sitting in the bus for 24 hours. It'll be actually nice to get back there. But I have a ton of respect for Coach T and what he's done with the program. Coach T was actually one of my, when I was there, was one of the assistant coaches on staff. So I have a really good relationship with him and Coach Brazel and Coach Gorman. Coach McEntee is the new volunteer there. Those guys are salt of the earth guys. They do a great job, and it's always the first boxcar I check. Besides ours, when we get back in the office after a game, to make sure they do well. But it'll be fun to get back to the island. I hope our guys are ready. Hofstra Stadium is obviously one of the best places to play in the country. So we're looking forward to making a trek up tomorrow morning for about 5.5, 6 hours and enjoy ourselves on Saturday.
And you mentioned what happened last year with the whole snowstorm, getting stuck on the bus. Are there any different preparations as you guys travel? Because living up north, you just never know when the snow might come.
Yeah, we're going to check the Weather Channel, Weather Bug, and anything else that is around the area. And of course, it's supposed to snow a little bit. So down here tomorrow morning. So we'll rehash good times, and it should be the norm. But once we get up there, it should be okay. Another balmy mid-30 March at this point lacrosse game. So it'll be a lot of fun.
And this is your second road game of the season. What is the key to playing such a great team on their home turf, especially a team that you know what it's like to play in Long Island? Again, I think that's where the team camaraderie, your team dynamic really comes into fold, because you have to, you got to hunker down together. 42 guys on the bench wearing Georgetown jerseys. That's what we need to do, and they're in the comfort of their own home. They're used to the surroundings. It'll be the first time we've been on a field, I think, for about 3 years now. So only our seniors have been there. So it's like I said, just to get used to there. We'll go up early, obviously, and practice there tomorrow night. But be able to get there and just hunker down and look inward, not outward, with the 42 guys dressed in blue. And I have to ask you about your senior, Daniel Baccaro. Well, how great has it been to see him have such a great performance so far in just 4 games? Well, I give that. Danny's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. I've been doing this quite a while, and to see where he is for a guy who had ACL surgery back in May, it's actually quite astonishing. But I'm not surprised, because he's our hardest worker. He does all the right things. He sets the tone for our team, and he cares so much about Georgetown lacrosse. And I want him to leave his legacy this year, regardless wins or losses. Yes, we'd like to win a lot, but I want to make sure that he leaves a legacy of doing all the right things, being a good citizen, and just being the model Georgetown lacrosse player. All right, Coach, thanks so much for chatting with me. Good luck this weekend and safe travels. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, guys. You could, of course, see the Hoyas and Pride square off here on LSN on Saturday. Like we told you, it's part of the CAA Game of the Week doubleheader. It comes right after Rutgers at Fairfield. This game, Georgetown and Hofstra, set for 3 p.m. Eastern on Long Island. Watch on LSN or the free LSN app. Once again, no reason not to watch college lacrosse on LSN on Saturday. As for now, coming up, it's that time of the week. Time for NLL Hot Takes. See what producer Pete has cooking for this week.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101, and today we'll be working on 1 pick, 2 shots. So we'll have players set up around the 24-foot line. The bottom guy is going to come up, get to the middle of the floor, and then go set a pick. The guy getting picked is going to cut, catch a pass from the low guy, I'll roll, catch a pass from the high guy, and take a shot. 1 pick, 2 shots.
All right, it's time for NL Hot Takes. We didn't get the animation this time, but we've got the logo.
We have it.
It signals it's time for
Don't
NL
worry.
Hot Takes.
I know.
No Friday games this week. Got some Saturday and we got one on Sunday. So
Yeah.
plenty to keep us
Still a
interested.
busy weekend, though. Still
Yes.
a busy weekend in the NLL. So
Let's start with hot take number 1 from
go.
Producer Pete. Remember, you can follow Producer Pete on Twitter at ProducerPete3. Hot take number 1 is that Rochester will get its first away win this week. They take on Georgia in Georgia.
yeah, did we not do this a couple weeks ago?
We did do this at some point.
And I think I did believe in them last time. The only thing,
I think I did too.
yeah, you know, and maybe I'm scoring off of that because I really believed in you last time, but this time I'm thinking it's just too hot. The game's in Georgia. Rochester, they're on a 4-game losing streak. It was a tough February. Their last win was January 26th. As much as I would like to say that
But
March,
the calendar turns,
I
Megan.
know, I
We're
know
in
it's March. I know it's March. You know, here comes spring, but no.
In like a lion, out like a lamb?
Nope. It's because Georgia is at home. Georgia has lost 2, you know, as well straight. But however, they're at home. I think Georgia's going to bounce back from this, and yeah, they're going to get the W.
I think at this point, look, Rochester needs wins, but Georgia needs wins to keep up with Toronto and Buffalo at the top. So I'm with you. I don't think this happens. By the way, the only other meeting between these two was in Rochester, a place where the Nighthawks have actually played pretty well at times this year, and Georgia was still able to win on the road 16-12. So, I mean, when you look at, they haven't played well on the road.
Right.
They've played well at home, but Georgia still beat Rochester in Rochester. So, like, I'm just going with the trends of how things have worked, and I'm going to say that Georgia's going to get it done.
You know,
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
We
so
could.
Producer
Because,
Pete.
you know, I feel for Rochester fans. They've had a lot of really, really close games. Their last 4 games that they lost, 3 of them were in overtime. And I know they really, really want to win. Like, they're almost there. Like, you almost had it, but this one is just not going to be it.
You know what the good news is? Rochester, if they don't like this team, they're going to get a new one next year. So, positives.
That is
All
true.
right?
We're going to flip it around there.
Moving on. Calgary going to be in first place in the West by Monday.
So this one, because the West, how it looks right now is they're taking on the Rush. The Rush sit above them
by a half game.
By half a game. So I think this is too hot because of my pick for this game. I think the Rush are going to get redemption because they lost to them 2 weeks ago at home. Now they're hosting them again. And I think the Rush have learned their lesson. You're like, okay, we learned. We're not going to do that again. And I think the Rush are going to come out on top.
Look, it's tough to beat Sask twice in Sask. Remember, the Rush didn't lose a game against the West Division all of last year, much less a home game against a team in their own division. This is a new year, and the Rush have not looked like the Rush that we have expected in the past.
Right.
I think it's going to happen. I still don't know what to make of the West Division, which is part of the reason I'm going for this, and I think Producer Pete is onto something here, because every pick I have in the West, it's like, oh, you know what, San Diego, they're going to be fine this week. They're good. And then they lose. And then, hey, the Rush. Well, they're the Rush. Of course they're going to win. And they lose. So you know what? I'm going to go with the trend and continue with the chaos and keep rolling things over. And so, yeah, I think Calgary's going to get it done. Though, I think there's a caveat there. I think they're going to be tied for first place with San Diego, because I think San Diego is going to beat Vancouver, which, in turn, both those teams sitting at 500 right now. They're both a half game back of the Rush. If they both win, they both jump the Rush. They'll be tied for first place.
All right, so
there
you picking Calgary, I'm picking the Rush. I'm thinking revenge, redemption. It's going to be close, though. It's definitely going to be a close game.
Okay.
But
See, I think if the Rush win, I think they're just going to blow them out.
How can you say Calgary's going to win, but if the rest win, they're going to blow you out?
I think it's one way or the other with this game, all right? It's either going to be Calgary or the Rush are just going to smoke them.
Okay, so if Calgary wins, are they going to smoke them, or is it going to be close?
No, I think it's a good game.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. All right, we'll see.
How about one more?
Last one.
Producer Pete, how many Twitter followers are you up to, by the way? He's going to check on that. We'll get that by the end of the segment. His final hot take, remember, Producer Pete 3 on Twitter. Follow him. Ryan Benesh will lead the game in points on Sunday. 24 followers. We got to get that number up.
You have to get up. Go up.
Got to get that number up. Benesh and company from Colorado playing New England. And the interesting thing about this is there is a possible suspension coming for the top scorer in the league, Callum Crawford, of the Black Wolves. Right. Which would significantly change this whole game.
Right. So we're going to go off of that he's playing because we don't know.
We're good. You can take this any way you want.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to take this as, regardless of if Callum Crawford plays or does not play, I do not think Ryan Benesh will lead the game in points because Colorado, I don't think they're going to win. Number one, and Colorado has been up and down. They surprised us when they beat the Swarm. However, they don't score a lot. They're 10th in the league when it comes to goals. And so, if you look at New England, they still have other players, regardless of Callum Crawford. Callum Crawford is great, plays or not plays, but you still have Tyler Digby, Stephen LeBlanc, and so I still think there's other players on that roster that could lead the game in points.
Don't forget about Davey Emler.
Right. And Davey, of course.
Coming off a great call last night, by the way. So I don't know if Callum Crawford's going to play. There's a possible 5-game suspension looming with the penalty he was assessed at the last game, which is game changer in terms of the MVP race, the race for the playoffs. So much changes if Crawford is going to be out, even if it's 3-4 games. That changes a lot. Benesh has been good, but you've got a couple of guys in LeBlanc and Crawford on New England who are both averaging more points per game than Ryan Benesh is. I think New England has enough other options that somebody in the Black Wolves has more points than Ryan Benesh. I will say, if Colorado is going to win this game, I think they need Benesh to go off. Right. I think he's got to have 6 or 7 points. I don't think Colorado is going to win, so too hot.
Right. Now, do you think Colorado is going to win if Callum Crawford does not play?
No. I still think. I'm
still going to New England. Still going to New England.
Yeah, it's tough to go to Mohegan Sun and take care of the Black Wolves.
It is.
Sunday afternoon.
I'm with you, but then I just had an aha moment that if you do lose your star player, does that mess up the vibe? It all depends on how you go out there and
got Davey off.
You do have Davey. You brought out Davey, which makes everything absolutely more amazing.
He's feeling it right now.
He is. This could be Davey's weekend. It could be. Davey might lead.
Hey,
everyone
no Callum Crawford, Davey Emler, the new Captain America. Follow Producer Pete on Twitter, people, at Producer Pete 3. Let him know what you think of his hot takes and give him some better ideas because some of these are getting old. He's running out of ideas. So
we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from the fans and tell us yours. They're probably a lot better than
Pete's. He needs more followers. Up next, we'll get you ready for the big game on the men's side tomorrow. Can the SoCon keep up all the success against the ACC? The Spiders looking to do what High Point did and get 2 wins against 2 ACC opponents. We're going to look ahead to Richmond and Duke tomorrow night.
Double out crease is not the most offensively friendly drill, but your defenders will love it. The focus around double out crease drill is to strengthen your program's double teams. This drill works on the key components of a good double team, which are positioning, footwork, and most importantly, communication. The great thing about the double out crease is that it is effective for all skill levels. To set up double out crease, you're going to set up 3 lines behind goal on the goal line extended. As you can see, I have 2 colors out, one being a white line for the players and a red line. Okay, this black line over here is just a coach who's going to roll out a ball. The white line you're going to fill with your defenders and midfielders. The red line you'll fill with your attackers, and also midfielders can transition into here as well. To start this drill, this coach is going to roll out a ball when she blows her whistle. Okay? As soon as that whistle blows, everybody's racing to pick up this ground ball. When this attacker gets this ball, okay, these defenders are working together to close out this double team. As we said, in the purpose of this drill, you really want to make sure that your defenders are forming the shape of a V. So when their feet come together, they're almost touching and really showing that it's a V shape in order to close this attacker out. The attacker is going to work to get by them, and defenders are going to work to really close this out, cause a turnover. As soon as a turnover is made or a shot is fired, you have your next set of 3 people going out towards ball. The most important thing about creating an effective double team is that the 2 defenders should be creating the shape of a V when their feet come together. A second key component is what they should be communicating. One defender should be calling body, while the other should be calling stick. Lastly, creating good body contact will help each defender direct the opponent towards their teammate to close the double team.
All right, before we go, let's get you all set up for Friday.
Yeah, we've got a top 15 matchup on the line here. Richmond, the 14th ranked team in the country, the Spiders, hosting. They don't have to go on the road. They host the Duke Blue Devils out of the ACC.
Yeah, so Duke's taking on another team in the SoCon, and the same team that won the SoCon tournament last year and made it to the NCAA tournament. So let's take a look at the Spiders so far this year. So they fell to Maryland early, but they have won the last 3 straight games, taking down Bucknell, UMBC, and Notre Dame. That was a big win for them.
Yeah, the win over the Irish was huge. Richmond has played top 10 teams really tight this year. Both of their matchups, 1-goal games. Of course, they fell to number 3 Maryland early on. That was a comeback game. They were down by a bunch, able to string 5-6 goals together late to make that a 1-goal game. And then they knocked off Notre Dame at home just last weekend, 9-8.
But we can't forget, Duke is ranked 6th for a reason now. So they're 4-1 this year, including a big comeback win over 5th-ranked Denver. That game was so good. And their only loss comes against High Point. That was back in early February. Another SoCon team.
Yeah, SoCon has been good against the ACC.
Yes, we've been talking a lot about them.
Duke also loaded with firepower up front. You got Joe Robertson, Joey Manown, 2 of the pieces of that arsenal that have been really good so far. They've combined 27 goals, 37 points so far this season. You can watch this game 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. That's Friday, March 1st. Turn the calendar, people. It's on ESPN.
Oh, is it March already? How is it March? I'm just...
So, yeah, it's crazy. Look, this is a big game because Richmond is looking at a spot like High Point where chances are only one of them is probably going to make the NCAA tournament. So High Point's already got 2 ACC wins.
Right.
Richmond getting 2 ACC wins really changes the landscape a little bit when you look at-large berths.
Should we do a pick before we go?
I don't know. Who you got?
I'm going to go for Duke. I can't go against Duke. I'm going to go with
Richmond is a tough place to play.
Friday night, under the lights, 7 o'clock.
Duke's got too much. If they hadn't have lost to High Point, maybe, but Duke's got to be on upset alert. Richmond can't sneak up on anybody again.
Oh, we'll see.
Producer Pete, at Producer Pete 3 on Twitter, he says the Spiders.
Oh.
So he's rolling with underdog.
Make sure you watch tomorrow night because we'll have all the highlights from that game at 9 p.m. Eastern. See you then.
Later.